Okay, in this video we're going to take a look at how to use the calibration washers that come with your grinder. The first thing to understand why might you need to use the calibration washers is to take a look at where the burr sits. And so what these will do is raise or lower where the base height of the inner burr is. So typically you can kind of see if your grinder is at a good level by holding it like this. And what you're going to want to do is turn the handle and slowly go down step by step and see which step the burr will start to touch. The inner burr starts to touch the outer burr. It'll make a sound kind of like this, and you can hear the ceramic just lightly grinding on itself. So if this grinder, for instance, we're at setting 1.5 right now, and if we go down to setting 1, we're still not getting it touching. So what that means is the inner burr is sitting too far down, and we need to use a calibration washer to bring it up. These calibration washers are 300 microns or 0.3 millimeters thick. And that equates to about 2 steps on the grinder, because each step on the grinder is about 0.165. So it'll bring it up a full step from 1 to 2, which if you think about it is really 2 steps, because you have 1, 1.5, and 2. So the first step to do this is take off the thumb nut, and you're going to want to have the top attached and be holding onto the handle so that the axle doesn't spin when you try to twist the thumb nut. So we'll go ahead and twist this off. Then the easiest way to remove the inner burr is to turn the grinder to setting 8 so that the burr comes out, and then you can grab the inner burr, and sometimes you might have to wiggle it and you'll be able to pull it off. Now we can remove the top, and we'll use our Allen wrench to remove the 3 screws in the base of the grinder. We do use Loctite on these screws, so they may be difficult to turn at first. It's normal to feel that. Just make sure you're turning counterclockwise to the left, and the Loctite will break loose. If you need a little bit more leverage, you can use the Allen wrench in this direction, and that'll give you a little bit more force to break that Loctite loose. Once you have all 3 screws loosened, you can hold the body here, and you're going to see that the hopper separates. And so the hopper is this clear piece in my left hand, and the rest of the base rings are in my right hand. You can see we can slide the hopper right off. If you need a replacement hopper, or you're following this tutorial to replace the hopper, make sure that the spring and the axle came off, and then you'll be able to put your new hopper on right here. In this case, we're interested in replacing or adding in a calibration washer, and so the calibration washer is going to go right here. And if you think about it, adding space here is going to make this axle sit up just a little bit higher, and so that washer fits right in between here and here, and so that's going to raise that up just a little bit. And then of course the inner burr attaches to this axle like this, so by raising this axle up, that's going to raise the base height of the inner burr up as well. So we'll grab a washer out of our bag. You probably just need to start with 1. We do include 2, but I would start with 1, test it out, see how it works, and then add a second if necessary. And so what we're going to do is just slide the washer onto the axle like so. and then we'll place the axle back into the rings. You're going to want to check here and make sure, like say that, you know, these rings came apart on you when you were taking it apart. It's totally okay. We'll just go all the way apart just in case. Okay. So this does allow you to take out the inner burr at this point too, or the outer burr, sorry. And so that pops right out. So at this point we basically have everything fully disassembled, and we'll show you how to put it all back together. The first step is going to be taking your outer burr and placing it into this bottom ring. Make sure it's pushed tight and sits down flush. Then you have a steps piece, and this will fit over your outer burr and also fit down flush. If you're looking at it in the side here and you see that there's a gap, you may want to get a rubber mallet and just gently tap all the way around this top ring to push the steps piece down flat. It's very important that that sits down all the way. Next we have the stepper piece, and so this is the piece that as the numbered ring is turned, this is what actually moves up and down and changes the height of the burr. And so the orientation of all these pieces so far, it doesn't matter. What we need to pay attention to at this point though is where the Handground logo is. And then we're going to want to find our numbers on the ring, and you'll see that there is a channel in this ring that the steps piece fits into. And so what you want to do is find the channel that's behind the numbers and then align that with the peg on the steps where the logo is. And so you'll drop that on right there. Then we'll take the axle, and this axle already has our spacer on there. Set that onto the steps piece. The spring is right here on the top half of the axle. And now with the hopper, what we have to do is notice where the measurement marks are on the left side and the indicator for the grind size arrow. And what we'll want to do is have the measurement marks be to the left of the logo and the numbers, and the grind size arrow right above the numbers and the Handground icon. So what you'll do is you'll slide this on, and then you can look down, and you want to make sure that these legs, you see there's 3 legs here, that they're lining up with the holes in here. And so you'll slide this right on. You'll have to kind of keep pressure down because now the spring is trying to push these pieces apart, but you can twist, and if it twists, that means your legs didn't line up. If it's held in place and it can't twist, that means your legs are securely lined up. So I'm still keeping downward pressure on this, and I'm now going to put the 3 screws back into the base. And we'll use our Allen wrench just to retighten them all in. With these, you want to go snug, but not too tight. If you over tighten these screws, there's a chance that you could break the legs of the hopper. So you'll feel it start to get tight, and then just give it a little snug, and that's all you need to do. At this stage, we now have the main body assembly. You can check it by twisting the numbered ring. You hear that good clicking sound, so things are working. We now can take our inner burr, place it back on, take our thumb nut, and tighten it back down. And once you get that thumb nut tightened down, the best way to do it is to get your top, lock your top on, hold the handle, and now you're going to push in so that the burr is sitting flat, and then you're going to tighten with your thumb. And you want that very tight, almost as tight as you can go with your fingers. If you're using a wrench or something, then don't over tighten it, but if you're just using your fingers, try and go as tight as you can. And so this grinder, before we added the calibration washer, was not touching on setting 1 at all. And so now let's see. We're on setting 4 right now. We'll go down to 2.5. Spurs still aren't touching. 2. Still not touching. 1.5. And there we can start to hear the scraping. So those are the inner burr and the outer burr just gently scraping together. And that's right about where you want it. You could, if you're trying to dial in an espresso, you could add a second spacer, and then it's going to start touching at about 2.5, and that's going to give you the working range of 1.5 and 2 for a really good espresso grind. And yeah, so once you've got that ready to go, you can put your base catcher back on, and your grinder is now set and ready to go.